On my first night in Athens, the city felt like a bowl of light held in a giant palm. Rooftops shimmered, scooters hummed, and the Acropolis hovered above everything like a careful thought. I had come to write a travel article, yet I kept hearing rumors about a guide who led people into myths. My taxi driver mentioned him as if whispering a password. His name was Nikos, and he ran walks at dusk. I dialed the number he gave me, and a calm voice answered, as though he had been expecting me all along. We agreed to meet tomorrow. He told me to find him below the hill where the theater faces the sky. I arrived early and watched the marbles soften in the low light. Tourists took photos and drank water, and stray cats coiled around their ankles like bracelets. Soon, an older man approached with a steady step. He wore a faded shirt and carried a wooden cane he did not need. This must be Nikos, I thought, and when he smiled, I felt oddly relieved. He introduced himself and asked what I wanted. I said to learn how the old stories breathe now, in this city. Nikos did not start with history. He asked me to walk beside him. Then he led me through narrow streets where laundry hung between balconies like flags after a quiet victory. He said myths are not fossils. No museum owns them. They belong to the air and the walk and the rumor that grows with retelling. We stopped at a cafe, and he ordered sweet coffee for both of us. While we waited, he pointed to the hill and said, "The rock remembers the first footsteps of drama, and every echo is a small chorus asking for another scene today." After coffee, he guided me toward the market, where stalls overflowed with oranges and fish. A woman sold herbs from paper cones, and their scent rose like a promise from an open book. Nikos paused and bought thyme. He told me the island shepherds say a sprig of thyme keeps dreams clear. Then he asked me to close my eyes. I heard vendors calling, saw the red afterglow behind my lids, and smelled salt, citrus, and dust. When I opened my eyes, the market felt older and kinder. He said, "Now you carry a key without noticing its weight everywhere." We climbed the steps to a quiet neighborhood painted with murals. One wall showed a black ship sailing across a blue sea. Nikos tapped the image with his cane and told me a story of a sailor who heard singing on the wind and stitched cotton in his ears to stay safe. He asked if the song was a trap or a test. I said perhaps it was both. He nodded and explained how city temptations work the same. You must learn which voice asks for your attention and which one asks for your surrender, because they rarely match cleanly. As twilight gathered, Nikos led me toward the harbor. The water breathed against the pier, and ferries exhaled smoke like tired dragons. He told me we would board the next boat to Aegina, just for the evening. I hesitated, then agreed, pulled along by a feeling I could not name. On deck, he spread a map. He asked me to place my finger anywhere. I pointed at a small temple icon and raised my eyebrows. He laughed softly and said, "The island keeps a story about justice and the courage to start again, even after entire worlds collapse into silence." We reached the island under a sky colored like bruised peaches. A breeze lifted the flag, and the harbor lights strung themselves across the water. Nikos walked faster, eager, and I matched his pace. We followed a road between pine trees until the temple appeared, pale and patient. He invited me to step inside the open rectangle of columns and to speak one wish out loud. I whispered that I wanted my life to feel true. The trees stirred as if they heard me. He said that gods listen when the wish is honest, whether you believe or not today. On the return trip, the sea thickened with stars. Nikos leaned on the rail and told me about his grandfather, who had been a fisherman and a singer and who knew a prayer for every kind of weather. He said the old man taught him that a story should be steady as a boat and flexible as rope. Back in Athens, the streets breathed a later hour. We walked toward my hotel without hurry. A woman on a balcony watered basil, and a boy chased a moth. The city seemed to echo with careful steps, ancient and awake beneath everything. The next morning, I wrote faster than usual. The sentences felt like bright stones skipping over water. My editor called to ask for details, and I told her I needed another day. I wanted to understand why the city felt both staged and sincere. Nikos met me near the ancient cemetery, where statues stood like guardians of a gate that never closed. He said people come here to learn how to leave gently. We passed families bringing flowers. He pointed at an unfinished column and said it marks a life interrupted, a story mid-phrase, still asking for voice today. By midday, the heat pressed down and the sidewalks emptied. Nikos suggested we seek shade in the library. We slipped between cool shelves, touched worn spines, and read a few lines that glowed like fireflies. He told me that scholars argue about everything, but the best ones admit when a text has more than one meaning. I said that life seems to read us back. He laughed and said I was finally listening. Outside, the sky had a high glare. We crossed a small square where pigeons strutted like petty officials. I felt newly patient with the ordinary and tender. That evening, Nikos took me to his favorite taverna on a narrow street that smelled of garlic and rain. Musicians tuned their instruments, and the owner greeted us like cousins returning from a long voyage. We ate grilled squid and olives, and he poured wine the color of dusk. He told me one last tale about a traveler who tries every doorway until he realizes that the one he needs has been open all along. Music rose, and people began to dance, stamping lightly, palms clapping. He asked if I would join, or if I would stand apart, watching quietly. I stepped into the dance, shy at first, then braver as the rhythm caught my steps. People shifted to make space, and a woman in a red scarf smiled as though she recognized me from a dream. I felt how the old gods might enjoy this scene, not distant or severe, but curious, amused, present. Nikos clapped time with the others. Later, while walking back to my hotel, I sensed a delicate thread tying my moments together. The myths were not behind glass. They were stitched into sidewalks, markets, and ferries. They were simply waiting for someone to listen closely.